Okay, it's 2 p.m. point here in Germany, and welcome to the first research session of MAXDAYS. Today with Christina Hessling, and she's currently doing her PhD at the Ludwigs-Maximilians University in Munich. And her study focuses on mentoring relationships within corporate mentoring programs. And today she will give us an insight into how she uses MAXQDA for her research. And we're, excited for your insights, and I wish you a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. Now I'm starting my presentation. Yes, my name is Christina Hessling. I'm very pleased to be able to present my dissertation topic and my work with MAXQDA here today. And I'm non-English native speaker, but I will try my best that you make to understand me. And like Hannah said, I'm doing my doctorate in the field of education at LMU in Munich in Germany. And the subject of my dissertation is learning from each other, mentoring relationships as learning opportunities in hybrid spaces for mentees and mentors. And it's a qualitative study with content analysis according to Kukatz to understand learning and mentoring relationships in hybrid spaces. Yes, the background of my study is a company mentoring program, which was first established in this company called Malteser Hilfsdienst for the first time in 2020. And the name of the mentoring program was Women in Leadership. And the company itself is a large German Catholic social enterprise, and with around 40,000 employees in Germany and around 40,000 volunteers in Germany, and with a wide variety of divisions such as rescue services and school support services for children and office for older people, especially with dementia. And the aim of the mentoring program was to increase the proportion of female managers in the company. And due to the shortage of skilled workers and because of women in management are still underrepresented in many companies and in this company as well, the company decided to promote women who can imagine taking on a management position in the future. And in the first round of this mentoring program, there were 13 places given to female employees all over the company from various places in Germany. And the duration of the mentoring program was planned about 1 year, and which was somewhat extended due to the corona pandemic up to 18 months. And the mentors are experienced executives from different areas of the company and from different locations. And within the study, I interviewed all 13 participating mentees in a preliminary study, and in order to sharpen my research questions and to record the expectations to the mentoring program. And in the main part of the study, all 12 remaining mentees were interviewed using episodic interviews, and the average interview time was around 60 to 19 minutes. One mentee left the mentoring program early and therefore not interviewed again. The mentors, in addition, 10 mentors were interviewed in order to be able to record their perspective to the mentoring program and to the mentoring relationship as well. But 2 mentors could not take part in the interviews for reasons of time. And again, due to the corona pandemic, the interviews were mainly conducted online via Microsoft Teams. The collected data were transcribed and was analyzed by using the qualitative content analysis according to Kukatz. And I use a deductive-inductive approach. and I work in the company as an educational advisor. And within this mentoring program, I was only involved as a researcher. My research questions are: how is the mentoring relationship perceived or experienced from the perspective of the mentees and the mentors? What are the special characteristics of mentoring relationships in hybrid spaces? And how do the mentors and mentees learn and teach within the mentoring relationship? And which forms of learning can be identified in the context of the mentoring relationship? And also with the mentees and mentors perspective. The aim of my study is to gain insights into the special thing about the relationship between mentees and mentors, and to find out whether the people involved experience the relationship with each other as a mutual learning relationship. And identification of special characteristics of mentoring relationships in hybrid spaces, and gaining knowledge about the teaching and learning forms of mentees and mentors within their mentoring relationship, and also derivation of practical implications for the design of company mentoring programs in relation to mentoring relationships in hybrid spaces. So why am I talking about hybrid mentoring relationships or mentoring relationships in hybrid spaces? Due to the corona pandemic, again, not only I cannot conduct my interviews in person, and due to the contact restrictions, mentees and mentors could not meet in person either. So originally, the entire mentoring program was planned to be attended in person, and so digital forms had to be used. And the meetings of the mentoring tandems were possible in person at the beginning and at the end of the mentoring program. But the majority of the meetings took place digitally, and the relationship developed in this digital space. So it seemed interesting to me to explore these relationships in the digital space and the special thing about it. And is the development of the mentoring relationship the same in non-hybrid spaces and hybrid spaces? And I think I show up to the best of both worlds, analog and digital. So that's why I call it in hybrid spaces. Some forms of mentoring are actually everywhere, and it not takes only places formally when companies set up concrete programs. And it also simply happens in professional and everyday life. For example, a friend gives you an advice, or an experienced colleague gives you an advice at a question you have, or management questions, or managers support career goals of employees, and so on. And in this study, mentoring is defined as a relatively stable and dyadic relationship over time between an experienced mentor and his or her less experienced mentee. And it's characterized by mutual trust and goodwill, and its goal is to promote the learning and development as well as the advancement of the mentee. So I try to show you what the special thing is about mentoring program Women in Leadership and the mentoring relationship in hybrid spaces. So in this figure, yes, I try to clarify the mentoring relationship for you. And the red frame you see here is the formal mentoring program Women in Leadership from the organization. And in the orange box below, it's so-called discussions groups were exclusively available for the mentees. And there were also some seminars on various topics, such as leadership in male-preferred organization for mentees and mentors. And there were also accompanying some seminars only for mentees and only for mentors. and some are for both. And yes, the heart of the mentoring program is the mentoring relationship. And it is shown here in the blue circle. And the light bulbs here in green are intended to indicate the learning processes of mentees and mentors. And the reciprocal arrows are intended to make it clear that it's a reciprocal or mutual mentoring relationship in which both mentors and mentees can learn something from each other. And yeah, maybe interesting for you is my learning theory connection in this study. It is learning through experience and learning through feedback and learning through reflection. And now I would like to tell you something about my research method. And qualitative content analysis is a research method used to analyze and interpret the content of qualitative data, such as text, images, or audio recordings. And it involves systematically organizing and coding the data into categories and themes in order to identify patterns, relationships, and meanings. And in my case, the data were the interview transcripts. And the goal of qualitative content analysis is to gain a deeper understanding of the research topic, and in my case, the mentoring relationship in a hybrid space, and also learning within this mentoring relationships by examining the underlying meanings and perspectives of the data. And the special thing about this study is it's both perspectives, mentees and mentors. And this method can be used in a variety of research fields, like including social science, education, healthcare, and so on. And overall, qualitative content analysis is a powerful tool for gaining insights into complex phenomena and generating new knowledge. Sorry. And here you see the phases of qualitative content analysis. And Kuckertz recorded this in this spiral. And I would now like to present my approach for these individual steps of content analysis like I use it. And first, Kuckert names the first step is initiating text work. And in this phase, I read through all interview transcripts and recorded my thoughts on the material in MAXQDA in memos. As you see here, an excerpt from the list of memos. And I also have described the individual case in so-called case summaries in memos at the case. And in this phase, I also use the color coding feature from MAXQDA and coded all text passages that I found important in green, and text passages that said something about the learning in the mentoring relationship is colored in violet, and text passages that represent a special feature of this individual case were coded in blue, and text passages that related to the mentoring relationship are coded in red. And after that, initiating text work, I developed deductive main categories, which were derived from the theory and from my interview guide. And this is what you see here. And I code the entire data with these deductive categories. And you can also see the number of coded passages for each category here on the right side. And you see the number of coded text passages in the categories are very different, from 7, like here in the category mutual learning relationship, and over to 500 in the category mentoring relationship, describe and understanding. And that is related to that are here numerous of subcategories within this category. For example, the phases of the mentoring relationships and characteristics for mentoring relationship in hybrid space, just to name two. And in the category mutual learning relationship with the 7 text passages, there is no subcategory. In the next steps, and step 4 and 5 cannot be well separated, as it makes sense to code the textual material in these categories inductively and directly while forming the subcategories. And after all data had been assigned to the deductive main categories, subcategories were inductively formed within these main categories. And these were initially very strongly differentiated. So initially up to 50 or 60 subcategories were created in one upper category. And the next step, the subcategories were condensed and combined so that there are not left 50 or 60, but maybe 20. And I combined, for example, dialogue and exchange were combined into one category. So once the inductive category system is complete, all data, all interview transcripts are re-encoded using the completed category system. So there are different ways of coding text passages for interviews. And on the one hand, there are manifest meanings, and I coded manifest meanings, which means that you can code something that refers to specific clear and surface contents like words, pictures, images, such as very easily categorized. So, and on the other hand, there are latent meanings that refers to the meaning which is underlying what is contained in a communication. And in my study, I encoded both manifest and latent meanings. And so if a mentor says she had learned something from her mentee, from the experience of the mentee, then this had been coded as a form of learning. And this is more of a manifest meaning because she says it to me in the interview. But also text passages in which it became clear through understanding the entire text passages or maybe the entire interview that the mentor had learned something through the experience of the mentor, then this was also coded as a form of learning, and which is then more of a latent meaning. And in this picture, you can see that for the deductive main category, challenges within the mentoring relationship in hybrid spaces are a large number of subcategories inductively formed and near to the material. And these subcategories were initially formed very, very closely to the text and near to the statements of mentees and mentors. And in the next step, these numerous categories are now summarized and condensed. And it was also important here that there weren't so many subcategories that only contained one passages of text. This maybe can happen, but it should not be the norm. And if you have a lot of subcategories, whereas only one text passages, it makes sense to combine and condense these together with other subcategories that fits. So if you're ready with coding, then comes the analyze. And there are forms of analyses that Cookus proposes, and which you see here. And I use relationships between main and subcategories, and it's the best form, I think, with Code Matrix browser and Code Relations browser in MAXQDA. And group comparisons, which the group of mentors is compared with the group of mentees in MAXQDA as a very good function, I think. And individual case analysis to have a better understanding of the individual case. And I have 2 cases as a tandem, which I show more in the next slide. But first, visual tools in MAXQDA, Code Matrix Browser, and Code Relations Browser. And I use the Code Matrix Browser, for example, to find out which forms of teaching and which forms of learning the mentees and mentors have perceived in the mentoring relationship, or how the connection between the pedagogical action of the mentees and the goals of the mentees. And here you can see now an example from my Code Matrix Browser from MAXQDA. And unfortunately, maybe a bit small, but I hope you see it. And the large squares are of interest to me. And in MAXQDA, I can double click on them to see that text passages and see summaries behind them, and then paraphrase or summarize or interpret them. And of course, I can see frequency in the coding, but I think this needs to be taken with caution. And as it may just be that one person talks about something very often in an interview and another person less often, and still both can be equally important for me and for the analysis. And it's my job as a researcher to take that into account when interpreting the data. So for example, maybe the red square here is related to Mentee 9 is larger than in the other cases, but this does not mean that the text passages in this case, M9, are more relevant than in the other cases. But only that several text passages in M9 were more coded with this category. And as you can see, all mentees said something about exchange here in this line. But not all say that they have received coaching or supervision in the line under exchange and dialogue. And this is something what is very interesting to me, that all mentees and mentors showed me in the interview that is relevant to have a dialogue with each other and exchange with each other. But coaching is not so relevant in all tandems. It's only in a few. And that this is something that you can see very good in this function of MAXQDA. And now I would like to show you what else I use beside this Code Matrix Browser to analyze my data is the compare and cases in groups function in MAXQDA. And now I look at the category of learning forms, learning through experience or learning through reflection, and compare what the group of the mentees said about this form of learning with the group of the mentors. And normally the text of the interviews is in the columns here, but it was deleted for data protection reasons. And what I could see from that was that both groups, mentees and mentors, are learning through each other's experience and through reflection. And so the mentees learn from the experience of the mentors, and the mentors learn something from the experience of the mentees as well. And they do mutual reflection with each other in dialogues. So in addition to the group comparison, I use also the MAXQDA summary function. And I no longer summarize simple text passages that I only want to describe in my results in my dissertation, but I take a closer look at more complex text passages and then paraphrase them and summarize them. And the specific contents of the study are not displayed for data protection reasons again, but normally the text from the interview transcripts are included here. So the current status of my study is that I'm dealing with the summary of the categories, and I have already discovered the first insights into mentoring relationship in hybrid spaces and the mutual learning and learning relationship of mentors and mentees. So my first findings relate to the mentoring functions according to a study of Cram from 1985. And in her study, Cram worked out various mentoring functions, which you can see here as categories. And this is, on the one hand, the career function like sponsorship, exposure and visibility, coaching, protection, and challenging assignments, and the psychosocial function like role modeling, acceptance and confirmation, counseling, and friendship. Yes, and I noticed that it's not that easy afterwards with the mentoring functions. And I first tried to find out what she meant by function. And unfortunately, that's not that easy. And in my opinion, it also has to do with the linguistic component. Because the term function is can be translated in German with function, Funktion. But in German, function can also mean task or goal. And so I try to find out what exactly function is and what it is in my study. And through further studies and through my own data, I came to the conclusion that I do not use the term function as a category, but I do use a role and task and actions and goals. So therefore, the following categories were formed instead of mentoring function. The role of the mentor, and this is coded with self-attributions of the mentors and external attributions of the mentees. And actions that are coded with interaction or communication. What have mentees and mentors actually experienced, or what have they done in their meetings, in their relationships? And also motivation and goals. So why did the mentees and mentors take part in a company mentoring program? And also relevant, the learning outcomes. What have mentees and mentors learned from each other? So a connection can be seen between the perception of the role of the mentors, the actions within the tandem and the mentoring relationship, and the goal of the action. So furthermore, by creating summaries in MAXQDA, I was able to compare the group of mentees and the group of mentors, as I said, and found out that the mentoring relationship can be understood as a mutual learning relationship in my study. And learning through shared experience, both by mentors and mentees, is a main form of learning and mentoring relationships in hybrid spaces. And the mentoring relationship in hybrid spaces is characterized by various features. More detailed interpretation of the results is still pending. And the mentoring relationship runs in different phases, and more detailed interpretation of the results is still pending as well. So I'm at the end of my presentation. Thanks for your attention, and may you like to ask some questions. Marzena wanted to show the title again. One moment. I share my screen again. And this is, sorry. This is the title of the working title of my dissertation. It's Learning from Each Other, Mentoring Relationships as Learning Opportunities in Hybrid Spaces for Mentees and Mentors. But the dissertation is done in German, so it's not the German title.
Thank you, Christina, for your presentation and for being the first researcher to present her insights. I wish you all the best for your PhD and hope to see you in Munich someday, because I'm also there, so it's a beautiful city. Okay, thank you so much. And if you have questions, like the crowd has questions, just type it into the chat or ask Christina directly. You can open one-to-one sessions or chats with Christina. When you click on her profile picture, you can send her a message. Okay, thank you so much, and enjoy the conference, everyone, and see you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.